And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, General Manager now at WEIU TV. We're going to talk all day or all this afternoon about the Mattoon Haven. In studio, Chris Davis, the Director of the Mattoon Haven. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
And Alexis Morton, the Social Service Coordinator at the Haven.
Thanks.
So thanks for coming in. We appreciate you all being here today. And we'll continue our discussion. You know, Jennifer White was on this morning with Rob on the morning show talking about everything that's going on at the Haven. But I thought maybe we'd start with you, Chris. Just give us a background of what the Haven is for the people who may not know, and you get a little bit of just the nuts and bolts of what the Haven does here in Mattoon.
Okay, sure. The Haven is an emergency homeless shelter. We're formerly known as Mattoon Area PADS, and that was founded in 2001, 2002. It has evolved to the point where in 2019 we opened a new building and we rebranded and now we're called the Haven. The one big transition that occurred was that we went from a temporary shelter, so we would open at 7 p.m. and close at 7 a.m. We are now a 24/7 shelter. We also doubled our capacity, and we now have dedicated family rooms, a dedicated women's area, and a dedicated men's area, and we have a really nice commercial kitchen. So we're able to serve 2 hot meals a day, that's lunch and dinner, and then we have a cold breakfast.
Okay. Now, Alexis, as a social service coordinator, what is it exactly that you do, and what duties you perform there?
So when a client intakes into our program, I automatically assess their needs, meaning if they need appropriate documentation, employment, Social Security. So that's my job to give them the resources that they need. I also overtook volunteers. So we are in need of volunteers for day programs, either money management, any kind of skills that anyone could provide someone. Some of my clients don't even know how to read. So having, a teacher come in would be very appropriate to help those clients as well.
Okay. Now, one of the things that's funny, off mic, Chris said the same thing I thought about a couple of years ago when I met Dr. Gillespie, is food insecurity is now these 2 words that have become now synonymous with what's going on with not just shelters but across the country. So what is food insecurity, and talk about how you're battling it at the Haven?
Okay. Food insecurity is basically someone who doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from. And it's something before I took this job I didn't know a lot about. And Mike Gillespie, I sat in one of his talks and I learned so much from him. I wasn't aware of how much food insecurity there is. And in this area, we see a lot of it. We also serve to-go meals to people in the community, and we serve anywhere between 10 and 20 per meal. And there's just, for me, food insecurity is one of those things that I don't think when I was young that there was as much of an issue as there is now. I was really floored to find out that there was a food bank in the Mattoon High School. When it gets to that level that, even a child doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, this is a serious issue. So we battle that by, first of all, we're cooking meals and serving all our guests for every meal, and then serving the to-goes, and then reaching out in the community and finding out what other areas that we could help feed people if they don't have a meal that evening.
And we are going to have Dr. Gillespie and his wife on here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk a little bit about more of the food bank and things like that Eastern they just opened up at Eastern, and some more food insecurity stuff. But I did notice one thing over the weekend. It was ironic that you were coming in, is that nationwide though there's food bank shortages. People are not either giving as much, or there's more of a need. Do you know where we stand right there?
I don't have statistics on that. Do you? Or?
Well, I was reading a little bit. About 1 in 6 kids live in poverty. Almost 580,000 people are homeless every night. But there's 44 million people are at risk for their next meal almost every week.
Yep.
That 44 million. That's mind-boggling. What are your thoughts on that?
Real quick, I'll just, on that note, sorry.
Yeah,
Alexis,
no, you're fine.
But one thing that I'm part of a board with the Continuum of Care, which is several agencies working together to battle homelessness.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one thing for us, every year HUD does the best they can to go out and track how many people are homeless. So those numbers might be slightly skewed because they go out one night a year, and it's usually in January, which is a very cold time of year. So you don't see as many people homeless. For someone to be considered homeless, a person that is staying with a friend is considered homeless. A family that is staying with a friend is considered homeless. So those are the people you don't see when you do these counts. So I would say that number is probably much greater than the numbers that we actually have.
What about Coles County? Do you have an idea of homelessness in Coles County?
I don't have an actual number on that. I'll look that up afterwards. But we are full all the time.
And that's where I was going into.
And
What like when you say full, what does that mean? I mean, I know you're open 24/7 now. So how many people can you house and every night?
Yeah. So we have 6 family. We have 6 female beds, 2 family rooms, and 14 beds. That means that we are completely maxed out on our beds. The last year alone, we've served 144 people. And then the following year, we served 120.
It was 115, I think.
So really, we've seen that big increase in homelessness just for Coles County.
And when you say that, it's around 120 for the last couple of years, that's the people who qualify to get in. But do you have to turn people away because of
All the time.
backgrounds
Absolutely.
and things? Talk about that process.
So there is 3 qualifications that you cannot be on parole, you cannot be a sex offender, or have any warrants. Which, I mean, is sad because we do turn a lot of people away that are on parole. So, I mean...
But you have to have, I understand the reason for rules.
we turned away 2 people this morning,
Yeah.
a male and a female, because we don't have room. Right now we have 27 people staying at our shelter, and we would love to help everyone, but in this area, we're the only 24/7 shelter until you get up into the Springfield area. Champaign has a wonderful shelter, but they're also temporary. So
So if someone is qualified but you're full, what happens to those people? Do you have to turn them away, or do you try to find a hotel or Salvation Army, or is there a process?
Our first source is going to be Salvation Army, Mattoon Township, IRBA. There are other agencies, that have money for vouchers, so we try to send them there first. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're the first person that they're calling with someone, and if we're full, then you're in a situation where it's a pretty dire situation.
It's Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Week here in the country. So when you hear those words, it's one of those things you wish could go away. Correct?
Absolutely.
But you have some events coming up. Talk about those. Our big event Wednesday, so talk about that.
Okay. Today, they actually had an event at the Moose. They're doing a Monopoly tournament, and that was all of the proceeds would go to benefit the Haven. I think that was the Moose and Todd Reardon, so thank you to them for putting on this event. Wednesday, DeBurr's dinner, and our board president, Jason Duhamel, is going to be preparing that meal, and it'll be a drive-through dinner with a free will donation. We're not asking you to pay for the meal, but if a free will donation of any type would be great.
That's red beans and rice.
Red beans and rice, and that's
Yeah.
DeBurr's famous red beans and rice dinner. So
And Jason can cook. He's a good man.
he is.
There you go.
So-
The other thing that's coming up is the holidays. Does it make it harder working with families and working with homelessness as the holidays come up? It just seems like it would to me, but maybe I'm completely off.
I mean,
off there.
definitely, but we have an amazing community. So we do an event, it's called the Gift of Giving, where someone is potentially like a secret Santa for one of our clients. And last year we had an amazing turnout, and this year everyone has been very giving. So we're very thankful for the community.
How long can a client stay at the Haven? Are there rules there?
Yeah, definitely. So it really depends on the county that you come from. Coles County, automatically you get 60 days. Surrounding counties, 30. Surrounding that, 20. Surrounding that, 10. But we're definitely not just going to throw someone, to the wolves. We want them to better themselves before they leave.
So take us through the process to try to get them better. I mean, they came in on day 1. They're from Coles County. By day 60, you're trying to find them a job, permanent residence. What do you do, Alexis?
So I have pretty much a layout on what we do week by week, and we have goals that we want to set for our clients. As soon as they intake, they automatically get the 60 days if they're from Coles County. Then we'll establish, ID, Social Security card, birth certificate, so they could get that employment, because a lot of them don't have those. then we'll potentially start saving money. They'll be already in IRBA's program for rapid rehousing, and then they potentially get stable housing and they're able to live their lives. That is the perfect outcome, but there's a lot of people that deal with addiction, so sending them to rehab is an option, or we have some that want to move up north, or to be with family. They don't want to stay here, so we just try to make sure that we're reaching their goals week by week.
Is it tough to get the license and Social Security card, because right now this country's kind of backed up in a lot of these processes?
So Illinois has a homeless verification form that if you are homeless, you could get your ID for free. And the Mattoon DMV has been amazing with helping us with that. And then Social Security cards, with COVID, it was almost impossible. But now they're starting to open up, and it's been a little bit better.
I know we got to be careful on names and stories, but I guess the question I want to ask, and I'll try to figure out the way to ask it best, is, and this sounds, I don't want to sound crude here, but how does one that lives in Coles County all of a sudden just become homeless? Is it because of addiction, or, take us through a story or something you can recall.
Do you want to tell it, or do you want me
Sure.
to? Okay.
One of the most enlightening things for me at this job, and probably for you as well, is that homelessness for us, one thing that we try to do is there is no broad homelessness category in which, it's just a general statement, but each individual has a different story. One thing we do see that is quite common, yes, addiction, mental illness plays a part, but a majority of the guests come from poverty. It's a cycle in the first place. So when someone has lived in poverty, for example, a lot of people go through a lot of the same scenarios, whether it be addiction or mental illness, but they have great support systems. So one thing that we recognize that a lot of the people that come through have no support system and have not had a support system. And we become, at times, the first time in their life that they've had people that care about them, support them, and really want what's best for them individually.
Okay. When it comes to you two, what do you think are your best skills to handle the job that you do on a day-to-day basis? I'll let Chris go first.
Mine is, I'm a very observant person. I'm very analytical. I'm detail-oriented. But I also think my personality trait that is best suited for this job is I love to relate to people. So I don't judge anyone. I see addiction, I see mental illness, but I'm looking beyond that to see what is the trauma, what is it from our conversation that I can see that led you into this situation, and how can we overcome that? Alexis is great at making, and we talk every day about our guests, so it's a joint effort, and we have a great staff, and we're all part of the same team, but we are tackling this in a group effort.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add to that? In terms of from your point of view, what you think you do best?
I didn't come from social services at all. I was a daycare teacher before I came to the Haven, and I've been here with the organization for 2 years now. But I think I give out the motherly vibes to my clients, and they really appreciate it. And they know if they need anything, they could always come to us. So. Did
you ever think you were going to end up, both of you, this wasn't your plan to work in social service. Did you ever think that this was an option, or does it just kind of happen?
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
It just happened for me. To be honest, I'd always worked in management, and so, like I told you, it was food service, restaurants, retail, and then into property management. And when this job came open, to be honest, my father passed away, and he had talked about this. He was very community-oriented. And when the job opened, it was just the right moment, and I applied, and I got the job. But I had the background to manage an organization of this size, because as that organization, they have the new building, they have, doubled their capacity. They needed management, but I also have the right social skills where I really am truly caring, compassionate, and empathetic with people, and I want to see people thrive in life. And so for me, it just came together at the right time, and the organization was at the right place.
Definitely.
Well, talk about the organization a little bit, unless you have some more to add to that.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Nope.
Because I remember it used to be really, one or two people and a bunch of volunteers. So how many people on staff? How many volunteers? Your board, things like that.
Okay, right now we have 7 total staff, and that includes the 2 of us. We're considered administration, but
Yep.
you know, to run an organization like that, we are all on the same team. You know, and so we communicate very well. As far as volunteers, our volunteers are primarily in our day programs and in providing meals, cooking meals. We do have some volunteers, but if it's going to be in our desk or in an area where they're interacting with the guests, I just want that to be consistent. So one time a month for 4 hours is not a great spot for a volunteer. So if you can give once a week, then you get, we have a great rapport with the volunteers. They can get a rapport going with the guests. But if just that, a 4-hour blip once a month, it's by the time they come back, it's a whole new group of people.
Get you.
So.
And the board kind of oversees what you're all doing, and do they make recommendation, or is it more of an oversight committee?
They make recommendations for sure, and they're very involved. I mean, Susie Kaufman, I don't know if you know her, but she's been with the organization basically from the beginning. So she has great knowledge, great wisdom, and the wonderful thing is a lot of the board members have been there so long that they're not micromanaging. They realize this is a tough job. It's a tough situation to work in, and every month we have our board meeting. We communicate really well. If there are any issues, then they're communicating those with me.
We're talking to the Mattoon Haven today about the Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Week that's going on right now with Chris Davis and Alexis Morton. What do people not know? I mean, what do they not know? Give me a little insight into the background or behind the scenes at the Haven. I know it's a tougher question, but
Yeah, that is a tough question.
I'm going to throw one thing out just because I don't think people realize that out of 144 people that we've served this last year, 85% are from Coles County. 92% are from Coles County or the adjacent counties that are just right around our county. So I think a lot of people think that they're coming in from other areas, and that's very rare that we have someone. Once in a while we'll have somebody that wants to come to Mattoon and live. If we have people that come to our shelter from another area, we work with Mattoon Township. We also have part of our budget. We'll buy them a train ticket and get them back to the area where they're from so they can have the support and resources in their home area.
Okay. Alexis, anything come to mind about what people don't know?
Not really. Chris summed it up pretty well.
When somebody leaves, do you have that success story where someone, who spent, up to 60 days in there, then got a job, got the apartment, and is still doing well, and now maybe giving back to the Haven? Or is there a story like that out there?
There's several success stories that we've had. We just had a recent couple that moved out. They got their apartment, they're working, they're even making $18 an hour. They've never made that before. And they are giving back to the Haven. And all of our clients that have had those success stories come back and visit us as well.
That's cool. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
A good sign.
I don't think we could do what we do if we didn't have that feedback from people that they were actually going out and being successful and living great lives.
Is funding tough? I mean, did COVID money help or not help, or did you get it?
It helped. It helped us get through that period, but we rely on on donations and fundraisers. And for 2 years, we haven't been able to do a fundraiser. So that's why usually Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is an educational tool for us. We don't fundraise during that week, but this year we did because we haven't had a fundraiser in so long. And donations, we have great support, but donations were down because of the pandemic. People probably didn't know what was going to happen next, so they didn't spend that extra money.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year and a half. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years, I guess, now when you think about it, really. Now, when you're doing your event like Wednesday, the Red Beans and Rice Dinner at the Haven, people drive through, how do you plan for that in terms of the amount of food that you're going to order? Are you asking for people to call ahead and say they're coming and they're bringing 5 people, or how does that work?
We have our... Right now, we're hoping to have 100 to 150 people through, and that's what we've planned for. So there's backup in case there's more, but that's what we've planned for.
Someone comes to the Haven, Alexis, and they're in need of like dental care, health care, medical. I mean, do you guys take care of that, or how does that work?
Definitely. So part of assessing their needs, there's food stamps, Medicaid. I take care of that, so I sign them up for it. And then within a week, they have that So, and especially with the DHS office, they've been in contact with us all the time, and they've been amazing since I've been there. So.
Now, again, I try to get inside, like, and behind the scenes a little bit. So you have, let's say the families that are there right now. Now, what's their typical day like? Do the kids go to school, and then do the families, like, are they spending their day trying to, get better healthy, or to look for jobs, or what's the process there? So
both of our families are single moms, and they both have 2 kids apiece. Their kids do go to school. The one family, she does have a 2-year-old son that she takes care of, but she's on Social Security trying to, get back into housing because she was in an abusive relationship. And then I think we're definitely the foundation to help her, get to that goal. The other mom works weekends so she could have that time with her kids, and they're both succeeding very well.
Are they required to go out and look for jobs if they don't have one, if anybody that stays there?
Definitely. Definitely.
The other thing, you see a lot of these commercials on television, and people are talking about the biggest need in homeless shelters is socks or T-shirts. Is it true for the Haven? Is there stuff that you need if people can't financially give, or do you take donations like that?
Absolutely.
What are the needs then?
We can always use toiletries. That is something that we always can use. So. And also socks, T-shirts, right now hats and gloves, because these are things, and blankets. These are things that we actually share with our guests. That we have people that choose to be homeless, so these are things that we try to share with them. On many occasions we've asked them to come in and be a part of what we're doing, and there are people that that's not what they want to do, but we want to make sure they're safe.
That makes sense. So other things that you want to talk about, are there other events you're going to have in terms of fundraising as we, knock on wood, try to pull through this COVID thing, or are you really focused on this week? Or
this week right now, at the beginning of 2022, probably when it warms up a little bit, we want to do a 5K. There are many other areas that we have not investigated in the past. We have a good fundraising committee, and that's what they're looking into now.
Now, do you talk to other homeless shelters and about ideas that they have, and share ideas and share quote unquote war stories?
To be honest, we haven't. I haven't. I've talked to them. We've visited a couple, but it doesn't. Most of our interagency connectivity is with, like, URBA, who is providing, rapid rehousing or at times permanent housing, and CEFS, HOPE. These areas are these agencies in our area that we work with daily.
Any rumors you wanted to spell about the Haven in Mattoon?
The biggest one, I think, is that we are not drawing people from other communities. I think that's the biggest misconception of what we're doing. I think people don't realize how many people are suffering in this area. And when I talk about Coles County, Douglas County, Shelby County, Christian County, those communities are so similar to the ones that we grew up in here that I don't separate those counties. But that to me is the biggest misconception, is that we're pulling people in from other areas.
And I've heard, you're right, I've heard that goes around. What's the toughest part about each of your jobs?
Compassion fatigue.
I guess with me personally, I think it really has to do with if I can't get someone to meet a goal and I want them to succeed so bad, and they just don't want it. And like Chris said, some people want to be homeless, and we can't fix that person.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard it put that way either until today, that people want to be homeless. So are those people, do they stay there, or do you just take care of them, or how's that work if somebody wants to be homeless? I mean,
there's nothing we can do. There's nothing legally we could do to remove them from the street, and I wouldn't want to anyway. But at the same time, it does get desperate, because a lot of them are battling addiction, or they're battling mental illness. And mental illness to me is usually that's a dual diagnosis, mental illness and addiction. And that's the hardest thing to see, is people come to our door and you can tell they're just not doing well, but they don't want help.
There you go. Then I guess the best part about your job, if we're going to talk about the negative, what's the best part?
The most fantastic part for me is, right now we just had a gentleman move out last week, and I could count, out of the 115 last year, we had 88 positive exits, which means they got into a housing situation. And to hear them to talk to us, a lot of the guests are difficult, if I could say. When they're there, it's a very frustrating
I-
situation for them. And so when I say compassion fatigue, we're taking in all of that, that emotion from our guests. But when they see the other side and they actually get into their own house and they call us or they come by and you can see the elation in their face, that lets me know and you that we are doing something to impact our community.
Definitely those success stories is the best part of my job.
I heard Jennifer this morning talking about, I have Rob coming in for a second. Jennifer talking about you're doing some auto, sleep in an auto or staying in an auto.
Staying in a car, yeah.
Night in a car.
Yeah.
So talk about when that is and what that is and all that.
Okay, that's this Saturday night. And it's going to be, I believe it starts at 7 o'clock, and it'll be a 12-hour night in a car. There's going to be a lot of people out there, and it's just, to me, it's to replicate what it is to be homeless. Many people think it's living in a box or something like that. Majority of homeless people that we see have been staying in their car or in a vehicle. So that's why we're replicating that experience.
And so how many, do people sign up for that, or how does that work?
They can sign up or they can come to the event. It's at Casey Summers in Mattoon. So it's $25 per person. We give a free T-shirt. And it's a free will donation in a sense. We are asking for $25 for that, to donate for that event.
Okay, well, that's unbelievable. I know you schedule a lot of stuff for 2022. Is there any other information you want to get out? We have a couple minutes left here with the Mattoon Haven folks. Is there anything else that you want to talk about today?
I just would like, if anybody in the community would like to be a part of what we're doing or know more, the one thing that is part of what our mission is to educate the community on what we do, what we see on a daily basis, and the impact that homelessness and food insecurity has on the community. Because if agencies like ours are not impacting or not dealing with this issue, then this issue is going to increase over time.
Yeah, I think I mean it's a very commendable job that you two are doing over there, and I know a lot of the people are as well. So we have about a minute and a half left, so we will. I know Alexis wanted me to ask the silly end of these questions just to have fun. So thank you for all you do, first of all, for the Haven. So we'll go Alexis and then Chris. All right, favorite musical artist? Who do you like to listen to most?
I like anything. Like I could listen to anything.
So we should be your favorite station then, because we play everything.
I listen to you guys too.
All right, yeah.
But I could go, like my Pandora, it shuffles from Chris Brown to Shania Twain. It's yeah.
Chris?
So.
I am also all over the place. So, but I'll go back to, and it's when I first got this job, I listened to Even Flow almost every day when I went to work by Pearl Jam. It's a song basically about homelessness.
Yeah,
so
that's a great song.
So that's how I motivated myself every day.
Name me your favorite teacher growing up.
My favorite teacher, I think I would have to say his name was Mr. Korn. My favorite subject was math, and he was the best teacher I've ever had.
Chris?
Mr. Adkins, biology.
There you go. And do you have a pet, and what's the name?
I have a pet. It is a cat, and her name's Callie, and she is crazy.
Crazy Callie.
Crazy.
I have fish. I collect local fish and keep them in aquariums.
All right. So real quickly, if someone wants to get a hold of either of you at the Haven, what's the best way to do it? Email or website or what?
You could either call us, email. Our number is 217-234-7237, or you could email us anytime.
Our emails are the first letter of our first name and our last name. So mine's cdavis@mattoonhaven.org, and hers is aMorton@mattoonhaven.org. And our website is mattoonhaven.org.
Thank you so much for coming in. Great to meet both of you, and continued success.